You're not forgetting your dreams. You're being reprogrammed. While your body sleeps, your soul enters a sacred room where God heals, deletes trauma, installs codes, and retrieves lost parts of you. But that sacred silence is also being watched. Not every frequency that visits you at night comes from the light. That's why you wake up exhausted. You went to bed human, but spent the night fighting a spirit. If this message stirred something deep inside you, something ancient, something true, then like this video, comment "I'm awakening" and subscribe now, because what's coming next is not content, it's confirmation. Have you ever wondered why the most intense dreams are the ones you can never remember? The ones that wake you up with a racing heart, a sense of something huge having happened, and yet they vanish seconds later, like smoke. The truth is, forgetting is not a flaw, it's protection. When your soul travels through dimensions while your body rests, it enters environments the rational mind isn't ready to process. In these spaces of expansion, you're not just dreaming, you're being shaped, aligned, and visited. God performs delicate surgeries on your spiritual history, and every incision needs silence to heal. That's why you forget, because remembering too soon would be like reopening a wound before it's ready. Your ego would love to know what happened. It wants to explain, control, and share. But there are codes that weren't meant to be recalled with the mind. They were meant to be absorbed by the soul. Truths so dense and divine that if revealed prematurely could derail your path instead of guiding it. Remembering too soon can activate fear instead of faith. It might cause you to act before you're mature enough, or to share something sacred with people who aren't ready to honor it. That's why God hides what you lived, not as punishment, but out of deep love. Now pay close attention, because what you're about to hear changes everything. While God hides, the enemy is trying to break in. What if there are dark frequencies waiting for the exact moment your vibration drops, so they can insert confusion, hijack visions, distort the work God is doing in silence? That recurring nightmare, that shadowy presence in the room, that meaningless dream that left you heavy for hours. What if those weren't random? What if they were precise attacks aimed at sabotaging what heaven is secretly planting inside of you? Dreams are maps. Some show you the way. Others awaken dormant parts of who you are. But the most powerful ones aren't the ones you can retell. They're the ones that change you without needing to be remembered. The ones where you wake up feeling different, more intuitive, more grounded, mysteriously distant from certain people or patterns without knowing why. None of it is random. It's residue from an encounter your mind forgot, but your soul preserved. So no, forgetting isn't the end, it's the beginning. It marks the moment where your mind releases control and your spirit takes the lead. You're not losing memories, you're receiving instructions on a higher frequency. And when the time comes, those instructions won't return as dreams. They'll emerge as clarity, alignment, and action. Forgetting is where God stores what is still in formation, and everything that is hidden with purpose will be released with power. While the world treats sleep as rest, escape, or pause, heaven sees it as entry. Entry into a sacred space where the body goes quiet, but the spirit begins its work. Where the mind turns off, but the soul wakes up. To be treated, realigned, and reprogrammed. You don't sleep to rest, you sleep to be restored from within. Every night, something happens behind the scenes of the unseen. God places you in a room that isn't physical, but it's very real. A room where He touches areas you didn't even know needed healing. He erases limiting beliefs. He rewires old emotional scars. He activates spiritual gifts your conscious mind isn't yet ready to carry. This process doesn't happen through words. It happens through frequency, through silence, through vibration. And when it's deep enough, you won't wake up remembering, you'll wake up transformed. Some mornings you return light, other mornings you return heavy. Both are signs that something happened. Maybe your spirit received an upgrade. Maybe it faced inner resistance, broke ancestral chains, or confronted energies that needed to be cleared. And none of this happens through logic. The soul doesn't need to understand to be healed. It needs only to be available. That's why God makes you forget, because healing requires an ego-free environment. If you remembered the surgery while the wound was still fresh, you might overanalyze it, share it too soon, or interrupt the process with doubt, fear, or pride. So He silences the memory, but activates the transformation. For the chosen, sleep is not escape. It's alignment. It's like a hidden hospital where the Holy Spirit operates on areas the world wounded. It's like a command center where your soul receives blueprints that won't be activated until the right time. This is why some people suddenly disappear from your life, why certain places begin to feel wrong. You may not understand it yet, but your soul already received the new coordinates. And as you align more deeply with this frequency of healing, you'll also become more sensitive to interference. Because while God is performing surgery, the enemy is trying to crash the operation. Spiritual warfare intensifies when your reprogramming is working. And that's exactly what we'll uncover next, how these intrusions attempt to sabotage your healing in the holiest moments of your night, and how to tell the difference between divine work and spiritual sabotage. Have you ever woken up with the strange feeling that something was watching you during the night? Have you felt that heaviness in your chest, as if something was trying to stop you before the day even began? That's not your imagination. That's interference. That's spiritual warfare happening in an invisible realm. While heaven moves during your sleep, so does something else. The enemy knows that night is when God reprograms, heals, and activates the chosen. And that's exactly why dark frequencies attempt to break in, to distort the message, to interfere with the healing, to confuse what's being aligned inside of you. If heaven uses sleep as a surgical room, hell tries to turn it into a battlefield. This is where nightmares take on a new meaning. They're not always echoes of your mind. Many are planted disruptions, launched with intention. The kind of dreams that make you wake up anxious, disconnected, emotionally drained. The strange visions that don't make logical sense but leave a residue on your energy all day. These are not coincidences. They are spiritual noise. Low vibrations trying to intercept what heaven deposited in silence. And the greater your calling, the louder the enemy will try to be. Because the enemy doesn't fear who you are right now, he fears who you're becoming. He senses what you don't yet remember. He sees the trail of light you haven't fully stepped into. That's why the attacks are subtle. Sometimes it's a shadow in the room you can't explain. Sometimes a voice whispering something incomplete as you wake. Sometimes it's that paralyzing fear in the middle of the night that tries to choke your faith. These are not random occurrences. They are signs. Signs that you are carrying something sacred. No one breaks into an empty house. If your dreams are being targeted, it's because you've been marked with something heaven is preparing to release. But here's the shift. Every time you recognize the interference, your discernment sharpens. Every night of spiritual pressure becomes training. You are being conditioned to see what others miss, to stay spiritually awake even while your body sleeps. Because once you understand there's a war, you stop being a victim of it, and you start fighting with clarity. And then comes the question that changes everything. What if what you forgot didn't disappear, but is now returning as intuition, choices, and shifts you can't explain, because your soul never really forgot? Much of what you think you've forgotten during sleep was never truly lost. It was stored in a deeper layer of your being, beyond time, beyond logic, in a place only your soul can access. While your conscious mind goes blank upon waking, your spirit continues to carry what it received, like a seed buried in sacred soil, waiting for the right conditions to rise. That is spiritual memory, a form of remembrance that doesn't show up as images, but as instinct, clarity, and choices that feel deeply right even when they make no sense to the mind. Much of what you think you've forgotten during sleep was never truly lost. It was stored in a deeper layer of your being, beyond time, beyond logic, in a place only your soul can access. While your conscious mind goes blank upon waking, your spirit continues to carry what it received, like a seed buried in sacred soil, waiting for the right conditions to rise. That is spiritual memory, a form of remembrance that doesn't show up as images, but as instinct, clarity, and choices that feel deeply right even when they make no sense to the mind. There are moments when you shift directions without a clear reason, guided only by a whisper that tells you that path no longer fits. There are times when your calm, your certainty, your grounded presence seem to rise out of nowhere, but they're not coming from nowhere. They're coming from what your spirit already lived, already received, already learned while you were asleep. When God teaches you in a dream, He's not trying to give you content to analyze. He's planting something you're meant to become. And becoming takes time. It takes darkness, it takes silence. That's why you go through seasons where you feel like you're changing but can't explain why. Your language becomes more precise, your energy becomes more refined. Your presence begins to speak louder than your words. You start vibrating at a frequency you didn't study or rehearse, but it's yours, because it was placed inside of you long before you could understand it. In that moment, the dream is no longer something to remember. It has become something you embody. The human mind has limits. It wants control, context, and clarity. But your spirit operates by a different design. It doesn't need facts, it needs alignment. Spiritual memory is the ability to walk in truths you haven't been taught, to live wisdom you never consciously received. It's like your soul is carrying encrypted files that unlock only when the right emotional or spiritual triggers appear. So that moment when you just knew, when you spoke the right words, or made the right move, or walked away at the perfect time, wasn't luck. It was revelation returning, in disguise. Don't underestimate what God hid from your memory. He didn't seal it to tease you. He sealed it to protect you from using it too soon, sharing it with the wrong people, or acting out of emotion instead of wisdom. What's hidden isn't lost, it's maturing. Just like wine in a dark cellar, it's becoming more powerful in the absence of light. And when it's time to be poured out, it will carry a taste that only time and silence could have shaped. Maybe that's why, lately, you've been feeling something rise inside you. A tension, a pull, a deep knowing with no name. Because what your mind can't recall, your soul is starting to express. It's showing up in how you respond, how you see people, how you protect your energy. The dream didn't fade, it's unfolding, through you. But when that new version of you finally rises, will the world around you be ready to recognize who you really are? You're not forgetting your dreams, you're awakening slowly, crossing through a spiritual phase where silence is not absence, but a sacred environment where God shapes warriors who don't depend on signs, but walk in inner knowing. There is a kind of awakening that doesn't come with light, but with pressure. One that doesn't arrive through words, but through restlessness. And this, right here, is the most delicate part of your transformation. The moment when your soul begins to remember without needing to recall. This is where many people give up, because they want clarity before they're ready for responsibility. They want visions before they've built the character to carry them. But heaven isn't interested in feeding curiosity. Heaven is training messengers, intercessors, spiritual architects. You're being shaped in secret so that when the light comes, you carry weight without ego. The silence you've been sensing is not rejection. It's the space between formation and release, between being prepared and being activated. So if lately you felt out of place, overly sensitive, disconnected from things that once felt like home, this is not confusion. This is transition. Your soul is detaching from outdated versions of you. It's repositioning itself with no external permission, expanding in places where your mind still feels behind. Because what you forgot didn't disappear. It was sealed, preserved, protected. And when that seal breaks, because it will, what comes forth won't be just a memory. It will be a calling. You won't just understand what you saw, you'll know exactly what to do with it. And that's when the chosen stop chasing confirmation and start becoming confirmation. So don't be fooled. Heaven hasn't forgotten about you. Heaven has been preparing you for a kind of revelation that can't be handed to just anyone. You're not behind schedule. You're synced with an eternal rhythm. And when everything that once felt lost comes back, it won't return as a dream. It will return as mission. You were never forgotten. You were hidden, trained, and preserved in silence to carry something few are strong enough to hold. Now that your soul has started to remember, your life is entering a new rhythm, deeper, clearer, more aligned. And if this message lit a fire inside you, what comes next will take you even further. Watch the video that just appeared on your screen, because it might be the next step in your spiritual activation.